Good evening. I'm out in the garden this evening, just going to look at what I need to pick for tomorrow. And now that the garden's planted, it's harvest time and it's time to preserve. Now we've been eating a lot of cabbage and squash and zucchini, but look what's getting ready to be picked tomorrow. Green beans. Look at that. Isn't that exciting? So my bean tunnel is full of beans, and this will be the first picking tomorrow morning. I'll get up early and come out here and pick. But I'll step aside and let you see all of the beans that finally reached the top of this little tunnel that I made with cattle panels. So I'm real excited about that. But the next few weeks, I'm going to be sharing how to preserve your harvest. Now, if you don't have a garden, you can go to farmers markets, you can go to little vegetable stands, and you can usually buy vegetables in bulk. I know last year I bought green beans by the bushel, and I'm going to be buying my corn by the bushel. So stay tuned to this upcoming series on how to preserve the harvest, because even if you don't have a garden, you can still get fresh vegetables and put those up to use in the winter. So let me step aside and let you see this beautiful bean tunnel that I'll start picking tomorrow. Here's all the new beans. You can see they're just starting to come across the top. And then here are beans that are going to need to be picked. So I will get out here first thing in the morning and start picking these beans. So exciting. So this is this morning's harvest. I've got cucumbers, the green beans, I picked more squash, I've picked some onions, and I'm going to just start preserving all of these things today. And the first thing we're going to make is freezer dill pickles. These are my favorite way to make pickles. It's an easy recipe. I do have a video, how-to video on this, and I will link it in the description below. But you need to use pickling cucumbers, and my cucumbers have just exploded, so I'm going to go ahead and make 3 batches and put those in the freezer. And it's just such an easy recipe. There's no canning involved, no soaking for long, like 12 to 24 hours. You just cut up your cucumbers, cut up a white onion, let them sit in a glass dish for about 2 hours, covered in some salt. I doubled this recipe, and I just cover them with salt, stir it up a little bit, and then you just let it sit and the water drains off these cucumbers. And at the end of 2 hours, you can see they've reduced down, and the water from the cucumbers is down into the bottom of the glass dish. You just drain that off. I do give mine a little rinse and drain it some more. And then we're going to be adding sugar, vinegar, and some fresh dill weed. So there is the apple cider vinegar. I'm going to be adding the sugar, and I did double this recipe. And then I'm going to be breaking off some of that dill weed that I picked from the garden. But you just give this a really good stir, and then wait for the sugar to dissolve, and then you just pack it in the containers. But these are so delicious. You keep them in the freezer. They last over a year. And it's just an easy way to pickle those cucumbers that start coming in fast and furious. Alright, all the sugar has dissolved, and I'm just packing these in freezer containers. And they taste delicious. This is more of a sweet dill. It's not the regular dill pickle, but they are really good, and they're crunchy when you take them out of the freezer. They're just a good, delicious pickle. Now the juice that's in the bottom, I'm just going to go back and pour that over these containers. using up all of that delicious brine. And then just take a paper towel and wipe around the rim and pop on a lid and put these in the freezer. They're so delicious. Freezer dill pickles, an easy way to make pickles. Next on the list, I had picked 2 red cabbages from the garden and I wanted to pickle those. And another idea is pickling cabbage without having to can, and that's why I like this recipe. So I've just cut the cabbages in half and I'm coring them, and then I just take a sharp knife and shred them. Just turn them over and then just cut them into small shreds. And these grew very well this year. It's my first year of growing red cabbage, and I'll definitely will be growing these again. But the pickled cabbage stays in the refrigerator for about 3 to 4 months, and it is a delicious way, a very healthy way for your gut to eat cabbage. So we're just going to cut this up into fine shreds, put it in that bowl, and then we're going to I doubled this recipe, so I'm using 2 cabbages, which will make 2 quarts. And then I'm going to sprinkle them with kosher salt. And again, you let it sit for about 30 minutes, and it will reduce in size. And it's such an easy recipe. I can't wait to try it. So I'm adding on the 4 tablespoons of kosher salt. Just going to give that a good stir, bring that cabbage from the bottom up, and then add 2 more tablespoons of kosher salt. Now I will link this recipe below. I found it on Pinterest, and I will put the link to this recipe in the description box below. Now I'm going to let this sit for 30 minutes, and then after it has sat, on the stove, I brought together the vinegar, the water, and sugar. The brine, I brought it to a boil, and then I started packing the jars. So I take the cabbage and pack it down in the jars. Now the recipe did not call to rinse this cabbage, so I did not. But I'm packing it into quart jars, and I don't have to worry too much about preparing this for canning because we don't can this. It goes straight in the refrigerator. So you can see I'm packing each jar, and then I'm going to pour that brine right over the cabbage. And these 2 small heads of cabbage filled up 2 quart jars. Now just pouring the brine right over. Again, that's just water, vinegar, and sugar. Now you could add some red pepper flakes or some peppercorns or dill. I just wanted to try this plain. I know my dad loves sauerkraut. I'm not sure exactly what this is going to taste like, but this is called red pickled cabbage. Going to wipe the rims off and then just add a couple of lids and put these right in the refrigerator. I got 2 quarts of pickled red cabbage and 3 containers of freezer dill pickles. So now we're going to move on to frozen breaded yellow squash. I've got an abundance of yellow squash, and this is my favorite way to eat it, is to slice it in rounds and batter it up with some seafood batter and then fry it up. But I want to put these in the freezer to have all through the year. So I sliced my squash, and I'm blanching it for 3 minutes, and that's where you drop the squash into boiling water, let it boil for 3 minutes, and then put it in an ice bath. And this is what helps prepare it for the freezer. So all of that squash that I had on the cabinet, I just sliced it up or blanching it We're putting it in the ice bath to stop the cooking process, and then we're going to bread it with the Zatarain's seafood breader. So I have a paper towel laid out. We're just going to dry these squash patties with paper towel and just blot out that excess water. Now over on the side I have a cookie sheet lined with parchment paper. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bread this squash. There's the Zatarain's seafood breader. It is so delicious. I'm just going to bread it and then lay it on the cookie sheet. And then the cookie sheet will go in the freezer, and in about 3 hours I can take it out and rebag it. It's nice and frozen in Ziploc bags, and then label it 23 and put these in the freezer. I took out my last bag the other day that I had put up last summer. Just fried them up, and they are so delicious. So today I think I got 6 quart bags of breaded squash. Put these in the freezer and we will enjoy them all winter. Now, the green beans that I picked, I got 4 quarts. So let me show you how easy it is to freeze green beans, and these will be used for soup recipes. I do like to can a lot of my green beans, but I really wanted some for the freezer to pop out to make pots of vegetable beef soup. So the process begins again with blanching. So I've taken the washed, snapped beans, put them in the boiling water for 3 minutes, and then place them immediately in an ice bath. I've got my quart bags already labeled, and then you just start filling your bags. That's how easy it is to process green beans for the freezer. So even if you don't have a garden, go to your farmer's market, go to your little vegetable stands and buy some green beans, and you can put these right up in the freezer. Now I do have a video on canning, pressure canning green beans. I will link that below. But I really did want some for the freezer so that when I make my big pots of vegetable beef soup, I just open these up and pour it right in the pot. Well, that was a very productive day in the kitchen, and that's just part 1 of preserving the harvest. Stay tuned for more preserving as the garden crops come in. Thank you for watching, and have a very blessed day.